the winner of the J.G. Taylor Spink Award at the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Joining us with the latest on what's going on in baseball, he is Jayson Stark. How are you, Jayson?
Rich, I'm great. How are you, my friend?
You know what? Do you have a camera trained on my notes so you already know the questions that are coming?
I'm not at liberty to reveal that information.
Okay, very good. That's a very Lunau answer, I must say. It sure sounds like they're caught red-handed here, Jayson. This is what happened in 2017, correct?
Yeah, the reporting in this piece in The Athletic by Ken Rosenthal and Evan Drellick is so good and so thorough, Rich. Mike Fiers, who used to pitch for that team, is quoted on the record telling us exactly what they did and how they did it. And, since the story broke in the last 24 hours, I've heard from players, coaches, scouts, all echoing the reporting in this story, saying that they always knew something like this was happening. They just didn't know what. And, there are a lot of people in the game who are cheering on this just because it's the Astros. I think it's safe to say the other 29 teams, or most of them, are not fans. They've always looked at the Astros as a team that would push the envelope just about anywhere to gain an edge. And, hey, the conspiracy theories I've heard about them over the last few years are unbelievable. Like, I'll tell you one that I actually wrote at one point. They used to have that big Towels Hill out in center field, and then they leveled the hill. And what did they put in there? They built a sports bar. What do you have in a sports bar? Giant video screens in center field. Who's sitting there right underneath the video screens? Their bullpen. And so, everything that they do has raised suspicions, and now it's just all laid out in meticulous fashion.
Well, here's the thing that's really jarring about it is it's blatant, it's systemic, it's well thought out, it's well executed based on some of the videos that we are seeing on social media that certainly back up the knowledge of an off-speed pitch coming associated with a bang that you do hear picked up on a camera. Even Danny Farquhar, who's quoted in this, a pitcher for the White Sox, basically called his catcher out saying that he was on to the fact that they were on to something. So the question is here, Jayson, is we're assuming they stopped doing it and they didn't do it over the last 2 years at all?
I don't know that we can assume anything. That video that you referenced on the Jamboy Twitter feed is incredible. People who haven't watched it need to watch it. It just documents it all so clearly. And Major League Baseball has taken steps in 2019 going into this season to try to control this. They've had people monitoring the video room, the replay room. They've stipulated that the video feeds to those rooms is still on tape delay. But when I've asked people in the game, did that take care of it? They laugh. They said, well, what about the video room that the hitters go and visit in between at-bats to review at-bats? He said, they have a live feed. It's not as easy now, but baseball can't monitor every inch. They can't monitor the dugout. They can't monitor the video rooms. There's rumors that there are people in the stands. If you remember, in the 2018 LCS, the Red Sox caught one. I don't know exactly what they're still doing. I just know, I've covered almost every postseason game that they played over the last 2 years. I've seen them maul great pitchers in a way that really made me wonder what they knew.
Jayson Stark here on the Rich Eisen Show. If this happened in the NFL and with the Patriots, we know who would be blamed for it. Who is the driving force behind all this? Is it AJ Hinch, Jayson?
That's one that it's difficult to pinpoint. I would say that the suspicion is that it starts above him, that it's being fueled above him. And they're in a really interesting situation here, Rich, because we don't need to relive what happened during the postseason when Brandon Taubman, who was Jeff Luno's number one assistant, was overheard saying some stuff to some female reporters that got him fired.
Yep.
Well, now Major League Baseball had already scheduled a meeting with Brandon to ask him about that incident. Now it's clear, and it's clear in the story in The Athletic, that they intend to ask him about this too, ask him exactly what he knew and what's going on. And I mean, he might not have held the smoking gun, but I think there's a good chance he saw it smoking. And I don't know what tales he would or could tell, but there's a lot of information that could be revealed here very shortly.
Well, I mean, if with Hinch, it would be a say it ain't so situation for me, because he's done everything the right way, everything from my seat, that pushing buttons obviously in the game, and keeping Verlander in old school in games, and then obviously with the hurricane and the way he handled that situation in Houston. And everything, the media, the way that he's called into the show many times, and I've enjoyed our conversations. That would just be a bummer, and it's tough to wonder how he wouldn't know any of this if the players are clearly tuned into a bang means off-speed pitch, silence means hard stuff system. I mean, wouldn't everybody have to know this?
You would think. I'm with you. AJ Hinch is one of my favorite people in the game. I've often said that, if I had to hire one manager after I bought a team, I think I would hire him. And I've known AJ since he's a player. I really admire him. I enjoy being around him. I enjoy being around their players. But, we've reached a stage now where I think people are going to question everything. Because how could you not question it? It's just tricky because their team is so good. Like, that's a great team. We shouldn't question the talent, but we're going to question everything else. And you raised the Patriots. It's so similar to Patriots, isn't it? It's so similar to Spygate. Like, how do you look at Spygate? Does it tarnish everything the Patriots have done for you?
Well, the difference is, Jayson, with Spygate, again, what the Patriots did with that, although I know a Ram or two that think that the Patriots were spying on their practices prior to the Super Bowl that Brady and Belichick won for the first time. But that is thoroughly unsubstantiated. That is just belief as opposed to proof. The Spygate stuff, though, was not actionable material that was being accrued for in the moment. You could not take the video of stealing their signs and be able to communicate it to, if you will, Tom Brady through a headset before a snap. You just couldn't do that. Or into the headset of a defender before a snap. You just couldn't do that sort of thing. It was not possible. It was to just, I guess, get a library to prepare for the next time that they play, or maybe for the second half. I mean, this stuff is like, okay, the pitch you're about to see is this. And you could see how it actually worked. Also, though, you could see how sometimes it didn't matter because it's so damn tough to hit a baseball that you look at the Astros record that year, they were better on the road than they were at home. And the game in which Danny Farquhar sniffed it all out, they lost to Farquhar. Farquhar, they only got one run in that game. So I guess it does lead to the question of what does it mean? What does it all mean when it comes down to it? Just, I guess, in theory, in spirit, it's dreadful. But did it actually mean anything when we're talking about the Astros 2017 championship?
See, that's a really difficult thing to quantify. I don't think there's any doubt that this is something that they've used and has had an impact in certain games, certain situations, some of those really big games and really big moments. But how much it meant in terms of who won and who lost, that's really difficult to say because, the thing we can't lose sight of is they're not the only team doing this. We know that. We know that there are other teams that are doing similar stuff. And you don't know if the teams that they were playing were doing the same stuff. And there were moments and games where they had that advantage too. I just know that we've reached this stage of paranoia in the sport that baseball has to figure out a way to address, because it's fascinating to watch and fascinating to contemplate, but I don't think it's adding to the entertainment level of the game, as teams are constantly trying to change signs, and the catcher sometimes forgets what's coming and the ball goes to the backstop. And some of the stuff you see is totally a result of sign stealing and paranoia and all the stuff that teams think is happening, whether it is or not.
Well, last question for you on this, and then I got one more hot stove before I let you go. Jayson Stark here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you say they're not the only team doing it, and also it's so difficult for Major League Baseball to police it in real time, where there are rooms anywhere in the bowels of any stadium where videos can be seen. You know, players just leave the dugout for a second, they go and they see something, or you mentioned how there are television screens and center field located sports bars now. I mean, they're so difficult to police it, but what baseball can do is try and prevent it from happening because of a punishment that they deliver. How severe will this punishment be for the Astros based on what we can know right now, Jayson Stark?
Yeah, really difficult to say, because there is not a lot of precedent for this. I mean, the only precedent in recent years is the Yankees catching the Red Sox coaching staff wearing those Apple Watches a couple of years back, and that was just a fine. You know, so how different is this than that? How much more pervasive is this than that? How sinister is this than that? Can't answer those questions yet. It looks to be more pervasive, but this is going to be a really difficult one for Rob Manfred or whoever doles out this punishment to sort out, because there really is no precedent for anything like this at this level of technology that I know of.
Well, I mean, we saw a lifetime ban handed out to the all-time hit king because they thought that he might have influenced the outcome of a game based on who he bet on or against. How is this not some sort of cheating that there's visual evidence of it affecting an at-bat? I mean, we see it on Twitter right now, Jayson. You know, and there was
and it's clearly against the rules. Not quite in the way that what Pete Rose did over years and years was against the ultimate cardinal rule. But there's no doubt that Rob Manfred needs to make a statement, because there are other teams doing this, and they have to find a way to, if not stop it, strongly discourage it. I know my friend Joel Sherman wrote a column saying it's time to turn off all the technology, all the video monitors, all over the ballpark, and time to keep players from heading up into the clubhouse between at-bats, between innings. And I don't know if that's doable, but this is serious, and the whole world's watching. And the whole world would be paying great attention to whatever Rob Manfred does here.
Last one for you here. Oh, I got two more. Cole or Verlander tonight? Cy Young, Cole or Verlander? Who'd you vote for? Can you say?
You know what? I did not have a vote.
Okay.
I wrote a column about it, and to me, this is basically a tie. But if I had to pick one,
yeah.
I think I would lean toward Justin Verlander, and the case would be this. I had a historic year. His whip for the year was 0.80.
That's insane.
That's way less than a base runner per inning. Since 1900, these are the only pitchers who allowed fewer base runners than that. It was Pedro in 2000, and there was Walter Johnson in 1913. But, hey, Garrett Cole had the highest strikeout rate for any starting pitching ever. So he was historic, too. I think Verlander wins, but I have no idea. It's crazy.
All right. Now, last one for you. Why are guys like Mookie Betts and Lindor supposedly on the block here? Well, what is happening with Major League Baseball where stud players who are maybe, and it appears to be with these guys, generationally talented, being available? How does that happen?
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's not quite identical situations. Now, in Mookie's case, the Red Sox can afford him. They would love to keep him, but they haven't been able to sign him to anything. He has not agreed to any sort of extension. Has made it clear to them he wants to test the market, and they're in a situation now where, all right, all of a sudden ownership is dictating we want to get under the luxury tax threshold. They bring in a guy from the outside from Tampa Bay and Hein Bloom to run the show. He's not there to keep the band together. It's hard to imagine he's not going to aggressively explore this. In Lindor's case, the Indians are one of the most revenue-challenged teams in the sport. They've got a star player who's 2 years away from free agency, and just they don't feel like in their economic model they can afford to keep that player. And so they're going to do what they've sadly done so many times, and that is take a guy like this and move him. I don't know that it'll be this winter, but it's going to be sometime, and what a shame.
And what happens first, Super Bowl 54 or Cole signed somewhere?
I got Super Bowl, man. The only chance of Cole signing before the halftime of the Super Bowl is if the Angels get a signal that he really wants to be there, and Arnie Marino says, all right, let's just get it done, and they swoop in and offer him exactly what he wants. But what are the odds of that? It never happens.
So we'll see Pitbull perform before we see Cole sign. Okay, very good. Good chatting, Jayson.
You got it.
You got it. It's Jayson Stark right back at you at JasonST on Twitter and Instagram.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.